Conservation Commission meeting October 25th, 2023. Present are
Billy Cunningham.
Susan Tucker.
Collis Adams, Select Board Rep.
Patty Gale, Planning Assistant.
Jean Walker.
Jane Raymond.
Andrew Chaplin.
David Neiman.
Okay, we are going to start with the corrections and additions to the minutes of July 26, 2023. Does anyone have any? And we also have the minutes from September 27th. So do we have any corrections? Oh, let's do the July 26th.
I make a recommendation that we accept the July minutes.
Second on that?
Second.
Yep.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Now, September 27th. Do
We
we
move
have,
that we accept those minutes as written.
okay, and do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
I'll abstain. Wait, yeah, I wasn't there.
So somebody was, David, were you absent at that one? No,
No,
I was absent.
I voted aye.
okay. So we're all set on that? Okay.
So there, you
Now-
moved, one abstaining,
One
one
abstain.
against?
Yep.
No.
You voted against?
No, he
No,
voted.
I voted.
I was like,
No.
they said nay, I'm like, against?
I
Okay.
just voted yes.
Okay, we're all set. Okay, first on the agenda, we're going to have a discussion on the milkweed,
Not we.
the knotweed from a treatment. Adam?
Fresh off the street.
Held them off as long as I could.
Thank you. Tap dance, you will. All right, thanks for allowing me to come speak to you. I know you've got a full agenda, so I want to be pretty brief. So no handouts or anything tonight, but a very quick overview of knotweed. As you probably know, it's an invasive species in New Hampshire. You probably recognize it as the bamboo-looking stuff that's all over the place. Roadsides, along most of the rivers in New Hampshire, private property, public property. Historically, the last decade or so, DPW has been managing knotweed eradication for the town, primarily through chemical treatment with an herbicide. That's a glyphosate-based herbicide. Every year that we treat, we have to apply for a pesticide permit from the state. Call it pesticide, but it's for both herbicides as well. And we hire a contractor. So the contractor actually is the licensee. They come into town and we have them spray the roadsides for known areas. Treatments usually can be pretty effective even in year one, and you see an effect for 2, maybe 3 years after that, but really you can't go much longer than that and it comes back. It's, as the name implies, pretty invasive. So it's time for another treatment next year, so we plan to apply for another permit for treatment. But it's been sort of a political hot button issue, glyphosate in particular, and this previous treatment, I believe it was in 2021 that we had done, we started to see some feedback from residents about whether or not they'd like their frontage treated or not, any pet concerns. So decided this time it might be wise. I came to the board a couple weeks ago with this topic and said, would the board like me to reach out to Conservation Commission to see if if you have any interest in being part of the decision-making process for knotweed control, and B, if so, kind of how you'd like that handled. I could envision DPW still managing the program since we have, and it's a pretty smooth process. But if there are additional areas or additional treatments or lack of treatments that you'd prefer as a Conservation Commission, I thought it's a bigger decision than just, I think, this one person. We don't like knotweed. We can't mow it, so our roadside mowers have to skip over it. So if you're noticing around town that the roadside mowing is finally almost complete, in a lot of places there are still good chunks of the stretch of road that have knotweed growing that they jump over, but that doesn't help for sight distance and people pulling out of their driveways, that kind of thing. So and it's going to be a recurring problem. in England in particular, it's even worse than here. They are to the point where insurance companies are no longer insuring houses if there's knotweed on the property because of the damage it can do to foundations and the like. So we're trying to keep after it with the best practices of the state of New Hampshire DES. But thought as a conservation commission, you probably ought to at least have a seat at the table when we talk about how we're going to handle this.
Oh, okay. Are you asking us to kind of go out and monitor it, or do you want us?
Kind
are
of
you
an
asking- What are you asking us?
open-ended question, really, just sort of bringing the issue up. Hey, you know, if nobody said anything, I would proceed as we have in the past and apply for the permit, pay for the treatments. But if there's anything the Conservation Commission would like to improve in the program, either, you know, on conservation-owned properties or open space type things, if we want to expand the treatment program, we have our engineering staff and our interns that do that monitoring and mapping for us. Would the Conservation Commission prefer to encourage us not to treat with an herbicide? It's a, you know, they spray, they try not to spray too much chemical, but it does require a foliar spray. And if so, what would your preference be? You know, that kind of thing. I just want to, I don't think DPW should be the arbiter of hundreds of gallons of herbicide all around town, you know, without at least talking to the conservation folks about it.
Okay, DPW needs to continue along the roadside, right? Because you have the person who can legally spray.
We really should.
Okay.
The only real other approved option is a manual method where you don't use a mower because it can, even a little chip can repropagate into fields. So the only other recommended treatment right now is a manual cut and cover. So you cut it, you let it fall onto the ground and dry. As soon as it's dead, you cover it up with tarps, and you cover the tarps up with chips, and eventually, a couple of years later, you can come back and uncover it and pull the tarps out.
It's a process.
You know, it's a, and we just never would be able to get around town with all that work, so.
Jane, and then,
I think I'm asking the same question you are, Jean, but what do you want us to do? Do you want us to do something, or do you want to have us have a member of the commission sit on some advisory board with your Department of Public Works?
I think at a minimum, what I'd like to know is at least maybe a majority of the Conservation Commission supports the program at all.
yeah.
Just so we know, if you're unanimously against spraying the herbicide, I would probably not want to go and get a permit.
But not funding it.
Nope, we have, you know.
Just saying that the conservation, like we do for milfoil, the Conservation Commission supports the knotweed program. David?
Yeah, just to paraphrase, and correct me if I state it wrong, but my understanding of what you're asking is just, do we want to be part of the decision? Do we want to weigh in with our concerns on whether or not it should be done?
Right.
And pretty straightforward to me. And I would like to say that I remember before there was no knotweed treatment, and it was really getting bad in town. I'm not sure what year it started, but there's been a huge improvement once it started. I mean, there were some roads and streets where it was night and day. So I'd be a huge supporter of continuing it, because I think it's been extremely beneficial.
One thing I should mention before anybody maybe comes in one side or the other, there are some concerns with treating knotweed too early in the season because it is a favorite of pollinators. So there's a lot of bee activity early in the season. So when the state issues a permit, that's one of their requirements, is that they wait through the prime pollination season before anything can be treated.
There's a certain time when,
Right,
That's
so
right.
usually late summer, early fall
when the
is the best
tassels are
time.
on or something.
Exactly.
So there is something that likes knotweeds, the crazy bees.
Yeah. Susan?
Do we need a motion then?
Well, that's what I was just going to ask. Do you
I
want,
can make a motion to support the DPW and their eradication of the knotweed, and I think they,
Through chemical applications.
yeah, do the chemical, whatever the state has approved, and you follow through with the best practices, I think that's fine.
yeah,
I'll second that.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
There you go.
Okay, well,
Is
thank
that
you.
kind of what you want?
Well, really, it's what you wanted. I'm here to just,
Okay.
kind of try to help, help grease the whole process. If I could ask a follow-up question, would the Conservation Commission like to work with us going forward, and maybe even for the year 2024, to look at eradication on town-owned properties, conservation parcels, that sort of thing? I think that's kind of a whole extra ball of wax that we haven't tapped into. Right now, I'm only really authorized to maintain road, right-of-ways as DPW director, so I'd have to kind of have your, go ahead or say so to even talk about going outside that.
Well, I think we have, knotweed is clearly a roadside problem. I mean, it's not only, but that's, as you say, it affects the sight distance and, so safety, that kind of thing. But we've got other invasives that are horrible, and very difficult to eradicate. My only question is, I understand that there is an herbicide that is approved for use in places like pastures that is biodegradable and might not have quite the bad reputation that Roundup or its relatives have. And I don't know if you use that other one or not.
The past few treatments have been glyphosate-based, so it's Rodeo is the cousin of Roundup, and then there's another product that's basically the same
Okay.
chemical. So as of this point, we haven't used any others, but
Well, the only,
Not to
I
say
have
include.
used on my own property something called millstone, but I don't right now remember what the chemical name of millstone is, but it's approved for pastures.
I will, I'll
And
take a look.
it's also
when we-
approved for adjacent to water, which Goffstown's got water next to all of its roads, I think.
And then there's sort of a third tier, even outside of all the conservation properties, of private properties or riversides that are outside the right of way but not town-owned, and, there's it's really a big problem, but we have to start somewhere, of course, so.
Right.
If an early first-year type thing involved the DPW assisting and adding conservation properties to our map, so at least we kind of start to have a known, outbreak area, maybe we could see it on a map and see if it's really a problem that requires that extra treatment or something.
David?
Well, one of the things we're embarking on right now as a commission is to really step up our game in terms of stewardship of the town-owned properties, because there's a lot that hasn't been done, and so I think we're gonna be getting out there and, doing some baseline data reports and stuff like that, and at that time, I think that's when we can gather a lot of information on what the invasive is on a particular property, and then maybe we can explore the options and how we can work with DPW on that. But I think we should gather the data and then talk about it.
That makes
agree.
sense.
Yeah, my train of thought was heading in the same direction. As we're out there looking at town-owned parcels or easements and we spot it, at least if we can set up a communication line with you to say, by the way, it's a town-owned process, we've noted it on there. What can you do now?
That makes sense.
At least we're gathering data and identifying areas where of concern.
And I can leave you with this piece. For the permit timelines, we can't apply before January 1st. But usually what they've told us in the past is if you don't get your application in by about the end of February, you're kind of like not going to get it in time because it takes them so long to process. So most likely, we wouldn't be ready to start adding parcels to 2024 anyway. So if that takes any of the breathing room off, gives us a bit of time anyway to prep for a 2025 possible first treatment of something other than right-of-ways.
And I
Okay.
guess one other aspect that'd be interesting to understand is the scope of the license. If there are situations where it is strictly required or not, and then what I'm thinking of is Oriental bittersweet, which, it can be low bush all over the meadow on the ground, but the worst are the huge vines that grow up into the trees, and they're the worst because right now they're just releasing tons and tons of seeds. So if you take out those big vines, you don't eliminate it, but you've really hit it hard and slowed it down. And those can be eliminated simply by cutting the vine and then painting the stem where you've cut with herbicide as opposed to spraying it and broadcasting it. Now, whether there's still a lot of strict requirements around the ability to just paint the stem or not is, I guess, the question that I'm
Right.
wondering about.
I think I know the answer, but I won't say it on camera. I'll save you that plausible deniability. Okay, so I know you got a
All
big
set?
agenda, so that's all I really had. I just want to make sure we weren't marching off in a direction you didn't want us to march
Oh,
off in, so.
Yeah, thank you for coming
Okay,
in.
thanks very much for having me.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me go first. Not that you had a choice, I guess.
Okay, next, conditional use permit for public service of New Hampshire, Deb Eversource Energy, easement owner for a proposal for replacement overhead electrical utility structures along the existing F-162 transmission line as part of an ongoing rebuild project. Some of the new replacement constructions and site improvements will be located within the Wetlands Surface Water Conservation District. A conditional use permit is required per section 13.3.7.1 and 13.3.4 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance to replace structures within the wetland and the surface water conservation district. The easement areas are located off the following properties: Blue Jay Lane, map 19, lot 47-4, Barnard Lane, map 30, lot 81, South Mass Street and Angel Point Circle, map 31, lot 23, and map 5, lot 15-1 and 99, North Mass Street, map 7, lots 10, 10-1, 8-3, and 9, Bog Road, map 33, lots 10B and 11, Bell Road, map 33, lots 15, Tyler Drive, map 4, lots 100-30 and 100-31, Mountain Road, map -4, lots 87-5-23 and 87-6, New Boston Road, map 32, lots 24, 25A and 25B, map 33, lot 16, map 4, lot 63 and 65, Wallace Road and Park Lane, map 5, lots 98, Crest Ridge Drive, map 7, lot 13, 27, and 27-1. Want to state your name? That's a lot.
Gene, if I could, just before they start, just an opening statement. Remember, we've danced this dance many, many times before. And we're going to dance it many, many times in the future. So if you could be brief about it, I think we'd all appreciate that.
Sure.
We can do the expedited version.
Thank you.
I know you all have plans. Does anyone want an extra plan set for review?
We have
Yes. Yeah. I like to bring extras just in case. All right, well, thank you for having us. I'm Lindsay White with GZA.
I'm Travis Yando with Eversource Licensing and Permitting.
As mentioned, we are here for a conditional use permit for utility pole replacements. This is the F-162 transmission line. Eversource is looking to rebuild this transmission line, so this is every pole being replaced that's not already steel on this line. So this should be, intentionally a one-and-done type deal, in and out. And that includes 43 poles in the town of Goffstown. As you can see, there's a lot of lots that we cross, a lot of residential property areas. And for the typical methods, we'd be using the timber matting in wetland areas. In uplands, we're doing the usual grading and adding of stone. The schedule for this work is they're looking to do, as a result of communications with New Hampshire Fish and Game, this is a sensitive area in the state for sensitive and rare species of turtles. So they have limited us to outside of growing season work, sort of past the typical active season for turtles. So the first scope of the work would be proposed to be done between this January and end of March 2024. The work would stop for the summer, and then it would pick up again. We're looking at around end of September timeframe to pick up again and complete the rest of the scope through the end of March 2025. So it's kind of a half and half in the two seasons, just because there's so many poles to get done.
David?
So that winter start, would that begin then on the western side, the areas 1 and 2, since that's probably the most sensitive area coming through along the river there?
The scope that they're trying to do this winter is the upland poles, so that restoration, because it's such a limited window, and this line is a unique transmission line where they can only have outages during certain times of the year, and that includes like September, October, and early springtime. And so to be able to have poles ready to be replaced and be able to get out of there without having too much restoration work this coming winter, they'd be looking at the upland poles. And so all of the wetland work would actually be targeted for next September, end of October through that winter, just because we're getting a late start with this go-around.
Colin?
Yes.
Could you just break down for us the total amount of impact, how much is temporary, how much is permanent?
The permanent impact in wetlands is limited to the footprint of the new poles. I don't have the number that are in wetlands off the top of my head, but they would just be limited to the pole footprints as they're offset about 5 to 10 feet from the pole locations currently.
And all the rest are temporary because you put down timber
The
mats?
timber matting.
Cross over, do
Yeah.
your work, cross back?
Yeah.
Pull them out.
Pull them out.
So you've been here before, you've heard me say I like to see
Yeah.
filter fabric under the timber mats before you lay them down,
Yep.
and then pulled up afterwards with the material properly disposed of out of jurisdiction.
Yep.
Thank you.
We are familiar.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. We need,
I do have a
so
question.
Jane?
This isn't exactly about this, but are you the ones who were flying up and down with a helicopter with the wires?
Most likely, but I can't say for
I'm
sure.
not-
I can't say for sure.
Restringing the wires with
Oh.
helicopters?
It may have been, it's possible because we did have the Q171 that was done more recently, and it was the replacing of existing static wire with the optical ground wire.
Uh-huh,
So it's possible that that was for that, to support that work.
okay, just,
Yeah.
it went on,
curious.
it went on for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't anticipate any helicopter work for this, and if we do, for whatever reason, our outreach team and our project services team will be notifying not only the town, but also the abutters and people within the area too, so.
It wouldn't at least be this year, it'd be
Yeah.
end of March
Yeah.
2025, at the end of the total project, where they would be doing the same work of replacing existing static wire with optical ground wire for this line as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
But that's some time out, and like Travis mentioned, outreach would be contacting a direct landowners in the town to let them know of that work.
okay.
It could have been a different line too, because there's different engineering
Yeah.
firms in
Yeah.
charge of different projects that have come in. So it could be
A lot of
one
helicopters.
They never do it.
Okay.
I get it,
Colin?
by happenstance, I was down by Glen Lake and watched the helicopter restring them.
Yeah.
And it just blew me away that there's a guy sitting out.
Yes,
And I don't know how much they pay that guy, but
not enough for me to do it.
it's just absolutely aghast.
Yes,
Yes.
dangling from a
Yep.
string.
But I'll tell you what, that helicopter didn't move 1 inch. I mean, it was fixed in position, it never moved at all. It was pretty amazing.
You notice
It's
they
very
don't
interesting
do
to
it,
watch.
they don't do it when there's hurricane winds.
So, do we have any other comments or questions, or we just need a motion, just,
Just a clarification on some of these, like I'm looking at page 3, and over on the right-hand side, it shows one of the wetland impacts, and so it says approximate wetland buffer impact, 8177 square feet, approximate temporary wetland impact, 1,200 square feet. So that buffer impact, is that a temporary or permanent impact?
That is part of, as part of upland, even though it's wetland buffer, it's in the upland area, it is an area that we typically do have grading and addition of stone.
So that is a permanent impact, huh? In wetland areas, that would be different.
In the wetlands,
Well,
it's
that's-
timber
that's
matted.
Just whatever is minimum required for the footprint of the pole.
Yes.
Thank you.
And as part of our BMPs, we usually have, these pads are narrowed down to 60 by 30. So it won't be just left over as 100 by 100. So even in that buffer zone, it will be reduced down to 30 by 60, just to gives us enough of like a kind of structured base for if we ever need to go in there for maintenance again, you know, equipment can get in there without adding stone again.
That's good.
Okay, we need a recommendation. to send on.
You want a motion? I make a motion that we recommend that their application go forward.
That the planning board approve the conditional use permit.
Yes.
You want to add the fabric clause
Yeah, with those comments.
with the comment that we want the fabric?
So what do you want me to say, the fabric, with the fabric matting?
Well, in general, they should follow best management practices. They should put, it's been a long day.
Geotextile.
Geotextile fabric, thank you. And then the wetland crossing before they lay the timber mats down.
Okay, we have a second on that? Susan? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Thank you.
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Take care.
Okay. Next, we have map 20, lot 16, site plan subdivision and conditional use permit and application of Stinson Hill LLC owners for proposed 26-unit residential condominium development, Dearborn Village. The proposal is to build 1 duplex unit building, 4 3-unit buildings, and 3 4-unit buildings that will be located off of 443 Mass Road, Danish Park Road. Do we have someone here to present it? And
Sorry, I didn't make enough of this here, so a couple might just I just took some pictures. These are just pictures.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the one on top.
114 comes in the
It's
middle.
the one on
Oh,
top.
it's right,
Yeah, the
So is
top
he giving
plan,
us a-
he's gonna do,
They're just photos,
yeah.
just type photos.
Oh,
So the top,
just
top
photos.
is the architectural renderings and underneath that is the actual site plan,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
All right, all set? Good evening, my name is Matt Peterson with Keach Nordstrom Associates, here representing the proposed development at 443 Mass Road, tax map 20, lot 16. With me tonight is Bob LaMontagne and Dana Finn of LaMontagne Builders. This project was approved a few years back, about 10 years back or so, for a very similar type use. It had an office building and residential units behind it. My client picked it up about last year, and we've been working with the town, going through the zoning and the planning department to come up with the project that's in front of you. We have submitted to the planning board. We hopefully will be on next month for acceptance, but we're working through some staff comments from DPW and the planning department. From the aerial photo here, as you'll notice our site, this is 114 coming down to the intersection right here. Our site is located right at this location here. We have the Morgan Circle behind us. The wetland that is on our property begins over in this location here, kind of makes its way around the woods to a culvert system that goes underneath Mass Road, and then it goes around our property, again through another culvert on Morgan Circle. I'm assuming they filled in probably most of it on this side here because it's just a little 2-foot stream that kind of makes its way back on that side there. Our property does not have wetlands on site. However, it's directly off-site between Danis Park Drive and our property right here. We had Chris Danforth of our office flag this, I want to say last year or this spring. And then we have the 50-foot wetland setback that goes onto our property, and that's why we're here in front of the board tonight. This is a lot of record prior to your zoning, so it has the 50-foot setback, not the 100-foot setback on the wetlands. The site itself is an existing 2-story house, used to be Century 21, used to be automotive type stuff, now it's rental homes there. It's kind of cleared through the back. You can kind of see on the aerial that they had done some tree cutting obviously through there.
The Morgan Circle homes are located just on the back side of the property here. We had gone through the plan set and shown our removals plans and stuff like that. Just kind of outlines the pavement. We're proposing to take down the house, remove the pavement that's out there. And then you can see we've shown the tree line here a little bit on the right side. And then around the back side here as well, tree line. So again, most of it is cleared at this point, some of it there, but we are clearing some areas to future develop the site. We're proposing 26 units, all with individual garages on site. We proposed a turnaround instead. The previous application had a hammerhead at the end, which really directed a lot of lights through the site into the Morgan Circle development. I tried to make ours be more, kind of keep it inside of our cul-de-sacs and that type of stuff there. So again, the lights as you come down the road and stuff like that will be blocked by our buildings, come back down and around and come out. The drainage for this site is a proposed closed drainage system. This will require AOT approval. It's just kind of over the caveat to do that. So we have a closed drainage system throughout the site, catch basins at the beginning of it, run to extra catch basins. We do have some area drains kind of in between when you get tighter units here. I want to make sure the water gets to where it needs to go. We proposed underground subsurface infiltration system in the back, and then discharge basically, you know, here's the existing head wall, then the photos that are there, and here's our head wall that's here. The drainage was pretty minor to the back. We had a flow for 25-year storm of a pre of 7.11 CFS. We're dropping it by about a 7% decrease to 6.61 in post, and that's to this point back at this location here. Our other point of reference is back over here. We just have this top of the hill that kind of runs off that direction there. That drainage is not changing from 0.51 CFS in pre to 0.51 in post. The town's asked us to take a look at the 100-year storm through the system. We are in the process of doing that. We had submitted only 50-year to the town and stuff like that, so they asked to take a look at the 100, and we'll put that together and make sure it works as we go through. We proposed utility plans here for you guys to see. I mean, this isn't much for you guys, but we obviously have gas, water, sewer, and electric on site. We do, as I try to do on most of my plans, we shop out our landscaping. My landscape architect's sitting in the audience today, which is kind of funny. They did the plans for us here. So we have Train Design that do our landscaping plans for us as we put them forward. The rest of the set is the roadway drainage and sewer. Our roadway goes in at 1.5% and goes up at 1.55% as it comes back around. So we've kept it pretty flat through the site. We're, thank God, not on any mountain tops here, which is probably the only place in Goffstown you're not on a mountain top. But that's that. And then the plans at the end are really the construction and detail plan. So again, we don't have wetlands on site, but I went out there yesterday and just kind of took these photos here for you to kind of see what's out there. I don't know what you would classify this wetland, but the first one is the head wall that I showed. That is right up in, that head wall is right here. And I was standing right here on the road looking at that head wall. So that's photo number 1. Photo number 2 is standing kind of on top of that culvert, but back on Morgan Circle looking at it. So that's showing you the wetland right through here. And photo 2. And you can see to the right of photo 2 is Dennis Park Road there. Photo 3 is just a little further in. The head wall is right there to your left. You can see the concrete down on the left-hand corner. So I'm kind of just standing right on top of this culvert. I mean, that head wall right there. Number 4, I just wanted to give you an idea. That's from this bound right here, looking down. You can see the bound is in the front corner of that picture. So the area, the buffer, I just figured I'd give you a shot of what that buffer looks like on that left side there. So, you know, small saplings and stuff like that left over. Photo 5, just a little bit further down on that wall, but that's this rock wall from all the way down this shot here, and it's looking from right about there.
Could you point that out again, just?
Yep.
just- I've got the picture now, show me.
Yep. So right about in this location there.
And the wall goes on the property line?
Wall goes right down our property line, shown on the plan.
Is the wall
Okay.
remaining? Is the wall remaining?
Yes, the wall has to remain, yep, that is our property line there.
Just checking.
Yep, nope,
That was gonna be my question.
Matt, which photo is the discharge location of the
of the,
drainage system?
on the opposite side or my drainage system? My drainage system?
Yeah, the closer.
If you take a look at, let's go to the drainage. So here's the head wall, and so the picture number 2 is looking this direction here. I'm sorry, photo number 1. So it's just to your right, kind of on the far right-hand side of your photo,
Got it.
would be where that's coming out. And then, really, number 8 is the one across the street, just to kind of show you right at the bottom of this page is where that culvert is coming out. This culvert here is coming out right about there on Morgan Circle and then makes its way. And again, why I said it looks like they probably filled it down, it's grass and mowed right to the edge of it there, so. But I think Morgan Circle's been around for a little while as well, so. Right, so they probably didn't go through a lot of this then.
But the major stormwater management feature are the underground or in-ground storage galleries, I mean infiltration galleries?
Yes, infiltration underground system, yes. We are working with the AOT right now because I've got to do, the town engineer is willing to waive the infiltration requirement AOT. I'm not so sure AOT is going to do that. So we might do a little rain garden or something similar to deal with the groundwater recharge requirement of the AOT. And that's kind of the gist of the project. Can obviously answer any questions that
In the landscaping, we will have large trees besides the smaller trees.
Yes. So they proposed 34 trees and 100 shrubs.
Are they natives?
Maples.
So we got spruce, a compact false cypress, and a green boxwood. I would assume they're all native.
Yeah, the fall cypress isn't, but we can amend any sort of
Okay, all right.
palette too.
And what about the shrubs?
The lavender, we will make sure they're native, if that's your question. How about that? Because she heard me and she hasn't, I can't say those words. She hasn't.
And large
Part of the
trees.
planning board anyway.
Yeah.
Aren't they requiring that? No.
Yeah, although vegetation would fall under our purview.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it should be native to support
Yeah.
native insect
Native
species.
trees, yeah.
Right.
Because a lot of times these little landscape plants just simply don't.
But I thought planning board now was requiring that.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah.
Rainwater?
Yes, I have questions still. So, not a lot, Matt, don't worry. So, we're talking about vegetation. So, is there going to be some sort of performance standards for the vegetation? We've had rather unpleasant experiences, not with your property, but with other developments where the vegetation plans have been miserable, they have not been successful. So is there some sort of a performance guarantee, inspection, maintenance, and ways to address vegetation? Like, for instance, are you going to have a regular inspection program to make sure that the vegetation survives? And if it doesn't, are you going to take it out or supplement it, or what are you going to do to make sure that whatever landscaping plan gets approved actually comes to reality and survives over time?
I don't have the answer right in front of you, but I will get that and make sure that the
It's
board and that has that together, because I think you've seen that in most municipalities and towns, and everybody been really hammering on that the last 15 years or so, and trying to have something in place where, yes, a year later that 5 of the trees die and the person's gone and you have nobody to go contact and stuff like that, so I will work to see what we put on it and address that.
You'll put that in the condo docs.
Susan, did you have a?
So it's more of a planning board issue, but it kind of relates to us. The the parking for these units, how many spaces are provided?
So, we've got one for every, a garage for every unit,
Yeah.
plus a space in front of every unit. So I tried to do at least 2 for each unit. And then remaining after that, we did 8, and so we did 12 visitors parking on top of that as well, which yields a parking count number. It's on the first sheet there. Sorry, I don't have that at the top of my head. Parking calculations. 14 visitor total. So required, we have 52 spaces if you count, 1 for in front and then 1 for each garage. And then we have 14 others, 12 other that are around.
So to
So
meet the parking requirement calculation, each unit needs 2 spaces?
Yep.
1 space is in the garage?
Yep.
1 space is in the driveway in front of the garage door?
Yep.
I have kind of an issue with this, because you know people are not gonna do that. I mean, they're gonna wanna get their car out of the garage, they're gonna move the car that's parked in front of the door. What are they gonna do with it? They're gonna back it up somewhere, onto a lawn somewhere, maybe to a wetlands area somewhere, I don't know, but, you know, it's just human nature, they're not gonna do that. You know, by the way, I've gotta go home, can you move your car so I can get my car out of the garage, and then you gotta go somewhere, and how are we gonna do that dance?
Or they're gonna park in the visitor spaces.
Or in some place in a vegetated area, or maybe a wetland or somewhere. It's an issue that concerns me more and more now that people are saying, well, we've got 2 spaces, 1 inside the garage, 1 in front of the garage door. It satisfies the equation, but is it proper? Probably more of a planning board issue unless people start parking off paved areas.
Correct, and one of the things your fire department, so first thing for that, I hear you on the parking calcs and stuff like that, I'll take a look at those, but as far as parking off anywhere else, we've got the whole site curbed, and the fire department's requiring no parking signs along it. So we do have deterrents to stop people from pulling up onto it and doing that, it's not just grass and
Okay,
everything's
that's
doing
good
that.
to
So
know.
we've limited that. I'll take a look, the space thing is an interesting one, because I just finished a project in Merrimack where it's 1.5 per unit, and they built the whole thing. And I just submitted last week because they want more parking, and we're coming back to the planning board with more. So we went all the way with too much parking in the 90s and took it all away and all the way down to nothing, and now we are adding a little bit back. But 2 is what we're doing on that one there, so I'll just, visitor and stuff like that, I'll take a look. The 14 I thought was, or the 12, I'm sorry, was pretty good for half of that for visitor, because a lot of people put 4 spaces and don't give any. I do like to try, because I hear you, people show up and do that. Good information to understand for the planning board, because I'm sure it'll come up again.
Another issue is, and I don't want to plow through all these while we're here, is there somewhere in here that talks about recreational areas for the residences and where they're gonna play outside? So they aren't playing in the wetlands and...
We just sat down on that, the 3 of us, just the other day, and we were gonna have some stuff on the plan, so we figured the planning board was gonna ask for that.
Funny how that works. Okay, good.
Good thing you said that.
I have a question about snow storage.
You stole it out of my
There you
mouth.
go.
Oh, I'm sorry, where's the snow? I'm trying to picture where the snow's going.
So that was another question we sat down with on Monday, because that came up with DPW and stuff like that. So we're looking at areas between the buildings that we can put snow. We're also, as we typically do, removing it off-site to take it somewhere else and dispose it of accordingly. There's not a lot of places to plow it to, so we actually worked out a couple places to submit to the DPW. We'll see his comments, and then we'll go from there. So it was something that came up from them as well, so you guys are right on board with what the staff
Okay,
says.
so that means it would be in the condo association that they would hire snow removal.
Yes, we put notes on the plans to that level, yes. Yes,
Okay.
this has to be done by an associate. I mean, this is gonna have to be the landscaping done, the plowing done, there'll be a homeowner association for the group, yes.
And that's really important, because a lot of times they show a little postage stamp area for snow storage here, no over here, no over there, no over there. It's not the way plow contractors work. They drop the plow and they push,
Right.
one into the other.
Yeah, and then you can't get out
Yeah,
of your
for that
driveway.
big huge pile somewhere.
And you can't turn around.
Right.
Susan, did you have a question? No.
So-
He got it, okay. Anyone else? Comments or?
I just want to affirm, because it looks like it, so, you did mention that this has a 50-foot buffer, and You're staying out of the 50-foot buffer, correct? Yeah, thank you.
And you did say they're asking you to study the 100-year storm?
Yes, DPW asked us to run the calcs on the 100-year.
Because
For
the culverts are sized for a 25-year storm.
50-year, but they wanted to see the 100. So we gave them the 2, the 25, and the 50, and he asked us for the 100. It's,
Sure.
a lot of state and town representatives have been asking for that lately. I think we all know we've had a little more rain, so they seem to think that that'll change it, but yes, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
If I could just throw something up
Sure.
for folks to keep in mind and think about. I'm serving on a subcommittee of the planning board that's looking at zoning ordinances and changes to zoning ordinances. So if anything that the Conservation Commission thinks needs to be changed in a zoning ordinance relative to parking spaces or things of that sort,
Native plants.
let me know and I will bring that message to the subcommittee of the planning board that's dealing with zoning.
A lot of that would fall too under the development regulations, not in the zoning
Yeah,
ordinance.
well, the part that does though.
So do you want us to email you, Klaus?
Yeah, sure.
Would that be?
Sure.
That would be the,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep,
that
Patty's right
might
though,
be-
it's zoning ordinance, it's not the development regs, but in the zoning ordinance, it's,
I think it gets into the landscaping.
no, but it gets into parking. for
Yes,
sure.
it does do the parking, but not the landscaping.
Okay, we're concerned about the native planting and the snow removal, for sure.
And the
a
stormwater.
And a play area, a recreation area.
And the landscape maintenance performance.
Yeah, I had down-
Landscape,
You got that.
native.
And the stormwater.
Yeah, the snow. He said it wasn't going, so.
I guess I have a question. I do have
Yeah.
a question.
Yep.
I'm looking at all these where they're showing the tree line, the existing tree line. Is pretty much that gonna stay, the mature trees that are within the tree line at the back of the property and the side of the property?
The sides of the property here, the front of the property here, there's clumps in here, there's clumps back in here, that
Right.
type of stuff there, yes. Those areas are what's staying.
They
So
were-
on the removals plan where the line shows, this is the new, this would be the line that they'll flag. So the darker is the new, the lighter is the existing. So it's where it matches back in. So it matches back in there, matches back in here, here, a little bit of clump there, so that's how that.
So, anything else, Sydney?
So the comments I'm hearing are you want native trees and shrubs, a landscaping management plan, snow storage, a play area, and stormwater management.
A play area or recreation area?
Snow removal.
And snow removal, I do add snow
Together,
removal.
yeah.
Snow storage, removal.
And I think in the planting, maybe some large trees, not just all little 2 or 3 feet, like big.
No, we call that 5-6, but that's what it is.
Trees and native.
Can you just
Too big, they
explain,
die.
you said, what's the stormwater, why did you write that?
Because she was saying the stormwater management, she want to make sure that,
Oh, it's performance standards for it? No, that was for landscape.
That was different.
That was for landscape.
or do you want drainage maintenance?
No, I'm just concerned that a 25-year storm is probably.
Oh,
Properly
verifying the
sized
stormwater.
storms,
Okay, that's all. I just
properly
wanted to know what you-
sized,
Yeah, properly
okay.
sized, there you go. Fine, that's all right. I just didn't understand what the question was.
Stormwater management, okay.
So, now we need a motion,
To pass on recommendation comments.
recommendation.
Planning board consideration.
Somebody want to make that?
I would, but I can't, so somebody else might have to.
Andrew,
Yeah, okay, fine. I propose that we pass on these recommendations, or we pass on a recommendation with these comments onto
Planning
the
board.
planning board and ZBA.
Just planning.
Just planning.
There's only one that needs both.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Jane seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
Thank you all.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for the clarity in your presentation. Well, they were no executive.
Okay, next we have map 36, lot 80, waiver and variance requested for an impact to the inner 100-foot and outer 100-foot wetland surface water conservation district buffer. The owners are Mark and Joanne Gamache, and the property is located at 176 Elm Street. Recommendation is needed to be forwarded to both the ZBA and the planning board.
So your very last plan on the table, the big one, is this plan that she also has up on the board.
There's one of them missing, so I didn't bring in extras if anybody needs.
It's this one.
Okay,
All right. Good
state your
evening.
name.
Romy Maurer with Terrain Planning and Design, and I'm here for the Gamache residence at 176 Elm Street, map 36, lot 80. And this is the existing site here. I apologize, my dog decided to step on the thing before I left. I didn't have to print a new one, so.
Well, I did need it, so.
Yeah. This is the existing residence that comes off of a shared drive down and has this really skinny lot that goes down to Glen Lake. And it has a relatively level, moving up driveway to a detached garage. And then it has a bunch of kind of deteriorating concrete steps that traverse down to the residence. There's a paver patio that's up here at the upper entrance, and another set of deteriorating stairs that go down to this lower patio area that runs along the shoreline. And it's a completely hardened shoreline with a wood and concrete retaining wall, and then the patio on top of that. And the deck of the existing house is supported by that wall. And so what we are proposing, get some outline, you can see what's going on. The pink is the property line. This is the reference line of the lake. This is the 50-foot setback and the 100-foot setback. And then the orange is the existing garage and the house and deck. And this purple I highlighted here is an existing 4-foot wide raised kind of catwalk deck to access from this upper patio to the deck area. And we will also be improving the existing stairs for safety of access to the lower level to make them even and consistent, and that will involve replacing retaining walls. We'll also be removing the impervious patios with permeable pavers on both levels, and we will be replacing the shoreline wall to stabilize that and support the deck because it's failing, which is attached to the deck and could all cause that all to fall in. And we will be replanting with native species to stabilize the slope because currently there's no vegetation, it's just grass, so it all just sheds off into the lake. So we're trying to terrace it to kind of ease that slope and infiltrate with the permeable pavers and the vegetation. We have had NHB, there was a possible hit for wood turtle, so we responded to that by adding information on our plans. We have approval of DES, wetlands and shoreline, and we've had a wetlands review for the Planning Board Commission with her recommendation stating a favorable opinion of the proposed improvements for the stormwater management and wildlife with the increased vegetation and all of those necessary things. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments you guys have.
When did you go before the planning board?
I'm sorry, one more time?
When did you go before the planning board?
We haven't, we came to you guys
Okay, you
first.
haven't done it,
Yep,
okay.
yep, that's next.
Okay, I don't remember.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the first time I heard.
She's going to ZBA first and then planning.
Got it.
So are we commenting to both ZBA?
Yeah,
And what is the request for ZBA?
ZBA is for the variance for impacts to the inner 50 feet.
Just for doing the work within the,
Yeah, and then the.
And that deck expansion, correct?
Is it,
Is that,
this
and
sort
the
of
deck
kind of
expansion, is that
built
part of?
into the,
Yeah,
by
but it
the
wasn't.
pictures, it looks like it's almost in the water.
What's that,
The edges of like the deck and,
well, the water runs right along the base of that retaining wall, that's the,
right?
Yep.
So the water's right along the edge of the building.
yes, the edge of the supports for the deck are right on that wall, so it's,
I was
yeah,
gonna say, the supports of the deck look like they're right
right there.
there.
Exactly,
Okay.
that's why we gotta replace it, because it's all kind of failing and it needs to be support, which is structural for the house, and so.
How old is all of this?
That is a good question. I know this has been around for a while. I don't have the exact answer of the age.
Okay.
And we also spoke to the Piscataqua River Local Advisory Committee because they had input to being in there, and they had a favorable opinion of the overall plan as well. It's the standard deed improvement.
So how big was the deck that comes out close to the water?
It's on the water.
Yeah,
It's in the water.
It says 11,
yeah, it's 11
7?
feet 8 inches by 20 feet 7 inches. And then, so we're just doing a minimum 4-foot wide catwalk deck access
Catwalk
to
to the
get
water,
from the door
okay.
to there. So we're not expanding it. Everything else is staying the same. We're not encroaching closer to the water. It's further back, obviously, because that one's right on the water. So and we're within the side setbacks. We're not creating any other impacts, making it less conforming.
Okay, does anybody have any, David?
Yeah, I guess comments, regarding first the doing the work and the ZBA request. I'm not seeing any increased negative impacts. In fact, all I'm seeing is some improvements. I mean, especially with adding the vegetation to the area, which is currently just grassy area running down, so there's no negative impacts to this proposal, but there are some positive impacts, and so I don't see why we would have any objections.
Yeah, particularly the drip edge with the infiltration trench running around the perimeter of the house.
Yeah, and I actually applaud the measures that have been taken to address some of those things proactively before we even saw it. That's good. And I guess the only comment would be that, you know, best practices are followed during the work and activity, and I'm seeing notes on here in regard to that too, in terms of sediment.
And I see you're keeping the Adirondack chair off the slope, which is nice.
Yes,
Kidding.
try to
Yeah.
get- yeah.
Nice touch.
I think it looks good.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Or? Does anybody want to make a motion to?
I'll make, well, first on the ZBA one, right? Because we gotta make.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in regards to the ZBA, I move that we recommend the approval of this variance. And we recommend it because, I think it's always important to say why, we recommend it because we see material improvements to this area, including the area within the buffer. We don't see any negative impacts, but we see positive impacts.
Yeah, stormwater treatment where none currently exists.
and the permeable
Do we have a
stone.
second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Impermeable stone, and what was the call said?
The storm,
Storm.
the drains.
Sure.
Runoff management with the vegetation.
Yeah, where none currently
Runoff
exists.
management.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a
Opposed?
second?
I second it.
Andrew did.
All right.
Opposed? Abstaining?
So now we need to do something similar for planning?
Yeah.
Is there anything different that we would say?
Ditto.
Same to planning board?
And I will
Yeah, same
second that again, yeah.
Andrew seconds it.
Grant the waiver, okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining?
Great.
Yeah.
So I'll pass on the
Thank you.
comments to both boards, so we'll have them when you go before them.
Perfect, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Two beautiful, clear proposals in front of us in a row. We're on a roll here.
Well, this one goes with this.
Don't break it.
Okay, we did the minutes. Do we have to vote on the budget for the,
No, I was
Dues?
just giving it to you.
for the dues?
No, I already
Okay.
brought, you guys do it every year, so she just had me submit it,
Okay, and
unless you don't wanna do it.
for the stewardship, we are having the next meeting, which is in November.
Oh,
Right, and we
And the
picked that
meeting
date.
is going to be mainly doing this.
Yeah, I won't have any applicants on. You guys at the last meeting said no
Right.
applicants, so it'll be a workshop. I just gotta find out.
Be a
if they
workshop.
Tape it or we just do a workshop. I gotta check on that.
I would think we would just do the workshop. It'd be like watching paint dry to talk about, well, we need to get information on this.
Yeah.
It's mostly gonna be, what do we need to find?
Did we decide it was the 15th?
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said to me, if we had time on this agenda, you discussed a little bit. If not, you wanted it all on the 15th and we were doing
And just,
Okay.
the 15th for the
and
workshop.
then the next conservation meeting will be December 13th,
They all agree.
if that's, because otherwise it would be the 20th of December.
Or the 27th was the other day. So the 13th would be good for one reason is the last planning board meeting in December is December 14th. So if an applicant comes in, you can get their comments to them for that meeting. Otherwise, if it happens after, then they have to wait until January.
I think that'd be the best date, because the 20th isn't good for everybody, we already know that. And the 27th, between the holidays, a lot of people are gone that week, so.
Yeah.
So the 15th of November and the 13th of December.
Correct.
Okay.
And then that helps the applicants too. If they go to planning, they can still get their comments because they're not meeting after December 14th.
No.
But, for the meeting in November, for that, we're gonna be looking at lists. We're gonna be shoving papers back and forth and, well, here, we have this easement says this, here, somebody across the table wants to see it. Doesn't work real well in this room because of such a space and
Oh,
the big,
we can move the tables around.
We can rearrange them.
okay.
They do that a lot. I don't know where this came from. That
So we
was
can
my
sit
surprise,
around
too.
something and.
Yeah, if the tables are closer, it's gonna work a lot
We can just
better
take these
for
and
this
shove
sort of
them
meeting.
across.
That's why originally I suggested Grassmere
Yeah.
Town Hall, the old Grassmere Hall, because the tables in there you can push together and that works really well
But
too.
this, we could push these over, and then we'd be right across from each other.
No,
I don't even know if we can use the Grassmere Grange Hall. I don't know if it's booked, and I don't know if I have to be on television still.
But I
Well,
would-
if it's a
there's no
workshop,
reason,
I don't know.
it's just a
I'm gonna- I'll
We'll
workshop.
check on that.
Okay.
yeah.
I mean-
Public notice meeting, you would have to.
Video it. but-
not even all commissions are, we have the Bridge Committee, that's never on, the Parks and Rec, it's not on, there's all sorts of committees that.
Well, you just say that because I know the historic district meets, and they meet there, and they may be using, during that time.
Well, let's check on availability.
But otherwise, like, I know a lot of times in here, they move the tables back and they push them together.
Yeah, we can just push these two together.
Yeah,
Because I already
Would be
reserved the
close to-
room here.
Close enough. How close do we want to be?
okay.
Not very.
But we need to be close
6
enough
feet.
that,
It's to be 6
Sit on the
feet.
floor too.
Oh, God, don't go back to those days.
So I might suggest to keep us here because I did reserve the room. And I don't know what, I have to check when Historic District Commission meets because they use the Grange. They meet on Wednesdays too. Now also the Budget Committee, I don't know where they're using because they meet on some nights we are, but in a different location.
okay,
If I
but,
can throw out a preliminary thought, I was thinking about this the other night. And I think one thing that affects me, if not everybody else, is just the overwhelming number of lots that are on the printout sheet. I mean, just the number itself is like, what are we gonna do here? And I'm wondering if maybe we shouldn't consider identifying all the town-owned parcels and go through a lot consolidation and pull them all together and make one big giant lot. Because none of them have meet zoning, they don't have minimum size, minimum frontage, so why don't we do a voluntary lot consolidation of all of the lots that we own, pull them together, make a couple of, one or more big ones.
I mean, the ones
I-
up
I
on the
was on the
mountain.
paper road committee, and some of those paper roads were not removed. So you can't, like the mountain ones, some of those you can't
Well, we
push
can-
together because they're paper roads.
why can't the paper roads be
Well-
removed?
They can.
You have to go
And
through a
that-
public
They can't, but
hearing
that's another
process. with the
process.
select board.
And that's okay.
But that's probably a process we should
And
go
there's a
through.
few houses scattered in there, so you can't maybe can't remove some of those paper roads.
Not
because-
all of them, no.
But
I mean,
it's
We
an
I was on that
did that,
committee, and I-
Susan, we were on that.
We were on that
committee.
committee, we did the best we could.
At the time.
At the time, with
Yeah.
the people that were living there, because you couldn't take away their access.
Right.
And so, and I think most of the people are still there.
Yeah.
And there's still, and there's
Bigger.
some interior properties on the mountain that are owned. No, there's no road to them, but we wrote letters and tried to get people to sell or donate, and some people just never answered us.
I'm just thinking about incremental things we can do.
Yeah.
That would be to consolidate the lots we own, look at the paper road issue.
We absolutely should, and the first step of that is identifying all the lots. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Like I said in an email I sent earlier today, I sent that list, and that's probably what you looked at. And let me tell you, Collis, that list will be 3 or 4 times longer if I actually included all these lots. If you look at it, there's a section under the town-owned conservation properties, which is very brief, and one of the lines is see below for South Mountain. And you go down to the section for South Mountain, and in very bold print I put, this is just the beginning. It's a lot more that needs to be done, because it's very brief. And somewhere in the past I had gotten a printout, I couldn't even tell you what year it was, but it's the lots up there, and they have the numbers printed on them. So this has been very helpful. However, there's some funky stuff going on trying to sort this out. So the 3 sources of reference that I've been using to try to make sense out of this area is this very useful drawing, and maybe we can get another GIS printout even bigger of every lot, because the useful thing in this is it has the lot number printed on it. The second useful reference is, our annual reports, they list all the town-owned properties, and there's a separate list for town-owned properties and town conservation properties. And I'm sorry, but it's full of mistakes. There's like some of the conservation land, some of the, like the land we bought around Page Hill Marsh, where we bought that with the conservation fund. The deeds say this is being bought for conservation, and we can cite all the RSAs and everything. Well, one of those purchases was recorded as conservation land. All the others are recorded as town land, not conservation land. So there's,
Well,
how it got in the wrong lists, I don't know.
that's because the Conservation Commission can't own anything, it's the town that owns it.
No, I understand. The town owns all the conservation lands, but there are 2 separate lists maintained.
Yeah, well, we can
One says town-owned land, the other says conservation land.
well, we can fix that.
So, yeah, that's just, getting it out of one list into the other. That's kind of the least of our issues, least of our problems. I'm just saying, when you try to reference these things, you run into all sorts of oddities. But perhaps the worst oddity is, when I'm looking back at this, I look at these lot numbers, and there's a whole bunch of lots, a big section in here that all have the same lot number. It's map 40, lot 68. You go to the town's GIS, you look up the tax card, there's 13 with that number, but only 1 shows up in the GIS and in the official records, and it's one of the smallest ones. So the area is much, much vaster than the 0.14 acres that the town is recording. How do we make sense out of that? And
Is this on South Mountain?
yes, this is all on South Mountain. This map, they showed this as being conservation land, and we'll assume it to be conservation land, so is there yet another set of records somewhere?
I have a whole set of records. I have big maps of,
No, we need to see that
I
in the
know,
15th.
I've had them since we were, years and years ago, we worked on this, so I have some big
And Joe
maps.
Richard-
Joe Wickard,
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that? Worked for years on this.
He
did,
was
we
a
never
surveyor.
He said, I can't figure it out. He said, I
Right.
could try and use a process called rubber sheeting, remember?
Yes.
Where it was, what is that, Joe?
For
Well, I kind of
years.
stretch a little here and to make things line up.
All
That's
right,
like it. It's
but
like, whoa.
there's a couple of different issues here. One is if he's trying to determine the bounds. Well, if it turns out you have a big cluster like this and you own every single lot in the cluster, I don't think we need to worry about the boundaries
No,
of
we
it.
don't. Right.
We just need to worry about the outer
Outer
perimeter of the whole
boundaries.
thing.
Yeah.
And a consolidation could be done.
Yeah.
That's fine. We just need to go through the process of verifying that, in fact, we do own it all.
I'll bring my map.
Because the records are inconsistent, you can't, on some of these, like there's ones that'll, a lot number, and I go look in the town GIS, and in the tax card ID, it gives a book and page number for when we received it. Great, you go look up some of those warranty deeds, here's one where it lists so many lots. 457 lots were transferred to the town in just this one deed. Okay? 457. Great. You go in here and you'll find a cluster of maybe 7 or 8 with the same property number in the current records. And you go to the book and page and it comes back to this. It's like, oh, well, some small subset is being labeled that number, and then you'll find another cluster somewhere and it's another small subset being labeled to that number, but there's sure selling 457 in those two, so wow. I mean, we gotta,
Does it say like tracks? Because sometimes they refer to them as tracks, even though there are one lot. That's another thing that happens. Is it giving you actual
It was an
mapping?
inhabited forest with 10-foot wide
That's what, yeah.
walkways
Yep.
between the lots.
10
Two
foot wide.
picnic lots.
well, like in this original deed, it mentions the Pine section, lots 26 through 29 inclusive, 41 through 48 inclusive, and so on. So it lists lots here. And if we could go back to something that has all of these lot numbers in it, if they have a map that old,
I do
we
that
can work
for
our way,
Susan.
well, then that's what we need. We can work our way back to that and try to have that make sense with the current GIS, because the current GIS does not map well to the actual records and doesn't take us back to all the original documents, but
A lot of the problem is that the lots were transferred, but the little pathways between the lots were named as streets.
but
And
that's,
they're not really roads.
they're paper streets. And
But-
that's something the select board could resolve,
Well,
I'm
we
sure.
worked on that. Okay,
And that this,
it'd be
these are
fun to
not,
try again, sure.
that's, for 20, when I joined the commission 20 years ago, we had this situation, and all I've ever heard is about how difficult it was and how we ran into roadblocks. Well, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how difficult it was or how many roadblocks. The time is now. Let's resolve this once and for all and get it done. I don't care what happened before. Let's just get it done.
Okay.
And I can speak to that. My driveway used to be a paper street, and I found out one day, you know what? It's not anymore, it's gone, sorry.
Yeah.
I used to live on Rosebud Lane, it doesn't exist anymore.
Well, when we
So it's a
were,
process you can go through.
when we were acquiring the land around Page Hill Marsh, one of the properties we bought was the Sanborn approved subdivision, which has paper streets in that subdivision plan. You go to the GIS, you see those, and I know that our town assessor would like us to consolidate this, he's mentioned before, and we would too. And from all understanding I've had in all discussions, it's just, we decide to do it. Done. So I don't understand why a paper street up here would be any different.
Nope.
Don't see any reason for it whatsoever.
What we have to do is start the process, and it may be onerous, and we may have a list this long of lots, and we're gonna end up with a list this long, but so be it. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Get it recorded, get it memorialized.
Yeah, and when that request was brought up for consolidating those Sanborn lots before, which is totally in favor of, I didn't want to move on it at that time because I knew we were going to get more around the area. So we also bought 3 other parcels. That was all abutting. So to me, it would make sense not just to erase the lines at Sanborn, but combine all those into one unit, just as Collis was suggesting in the beginning. I mean, this would simplify everybody's life going forward.
So this is just a flavoring of what we'll be talking about
This
at
is
our
just a
workshop.
flavoring. Exactly. And so that's what I
don't
hope
know
you
if
can
you're
get out of
familiar
it.
with the history of the mountain or not, the incline railway and the little path paths that were
So
out,
we're keeping
just
in
to call
this room
picnic
though, right?
lots, where people would
We're
take the
keeping it
incline
in this
railway,
room?
walk down the
Yeah,
path to their
same.
picnic
Okay.
lots.
I think so, that's what
Okay,
he said
that's
they
where all
were
those
gonna
come
do.
from?
Yeah.
Because I've seen them on
They
the,
bring their
He said-
blanket and their picnic basket, and they'd have a picnic, and they'd get back, walk down the path, get on the incline railway, and head back down.
And
the
that
road.
way, if you need
But-
anything, I
but
can always
also
upstairs.
Makes a lot
It
of
was
sense.
laid
Yeah.
out
Absolutely.
in an office in Boston someplace
sure.
on a flat piece of paper. And some of those lots are just large chunks of rock that go straight up and down. I mean, they're just,
Yeah,
Good idea, bad judgment.
Yeah.
it was the best
Do you want to
read.
start with like different sections first?
Well, I think what would be the really helpful for that
Right.
15th meeting would be whatever the best printout we can get of just the whole South Mountain area that encompasses all these lots,
So,
so that we know what the current state is.
okay. And if you have any maps, I can make copies of that.
They're huge. Those are those,
Like
Huge.
these.
yes.
Yes, I can make copies of them.
And having that material, all that material, which didn't know you had,
I can scan them in.
would be incredibly useful.
So I can't make a motion, but if I could, I'd make a motion to adjourn, because we've already just set aside a workshop to discuss these issues. Let's,
But you can't make a motion, somebody wants.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll support that, assuming that we've already determined exactly what we're going to
Well, we-
have with us at this November 15th meeting.
If you'd help me with the agenda, that would be great, to help me
Yeah.
what to outline.
I hear a
What you
quid,
want
I
to
hear a
cover.
quid pro quo comment.
Yeah, and so we're gonna meet here, we'll rearrange the room. The good thing about being here is if you need me to go look at something upstairs
That's
and
true.
assessing,
Yeah, I think
I
we
can
should be
go up,
here.
I can go up and do that.
Okay,
And
I
I
will-
also may ask the assessor if he wants to come. Would you want him to assist with us where he has a lot of the information?
It's a workshop, so we can
It's
invite
a
whoever we
workshop, if
want.
he would
might be able
like
to
to, that'd
assist
be
with it.
fine.
Because the tax maps were done in the 60s, but we have like older ones that are those dark blue,
Yeah,
like canvas. We do have those too.
and I'd also like to include the entire open space
Committee.
subcommittee, just because more hands.
And I'll have to
be better
post
for
both
things going
meetings,
forward.
so that's good to know. Okay,
Well, it would just be a conservation commission meeting that they're, I
attending.
mean, we're only talking about 2 more people.
I was gonna say, who else is there other than
There's
who's
only
here?
two, there's only 2
But
that
technically, if
aren't on
it's
the-
your quorum, I have to post both.
Right.
Yeah.
And it'll be.
And I
so-
can just do like, I don't know if Gail would want to come and do the minutes, or I'll just do like a summary.
Yeah, I think probably.
Because she
This
does
is-
it from the video.
This is the sort of meeting where we aren't gonna need a bunch of verbatim stuff.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're not gonna be
Yeah.
making decisions, we're gonna
No.
be talking about, this is what we know,
This is what we
where do
know,
we
we don't
find
know.
it,
Here's
how do
what
we
we-
find
yeah,
it,
here's what we
how do
think
we
we
clean
need.
this up?
Yeah, and
Any votes can be deferred to a regular meeting at a later time.
And I have access to all the map drawers, like we have maps in the other room where the supervisors are, the old ones are in there, so this actually works out good if we have to run around.
She may have- I just have a
Jane
quick
made a
question.
motion to adjourn. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just have, since I'm a volunteer easement monitor, I have the books from PLC, so I made copies of what PLC's book looks like.
Oh, great.
So I don't know whether we want to make are we going to deal with that? I won't have the books probably
Why
in
don't you
December
bring
because I'll
them
have
and
to turn
then we
them all
can
back
decide
in.
whether to make copies for everybody, maybe?
But is that something you want to
We-
see?
like
We
to see
can, we can discuss it, but we're not gonna, we have so much to do, we're not
Okay, but
gonna
I'm not
solve
going
it
to
in
have
one
them for any
meeting.
period of time because I have to fill them out and return them to PLC when we do the work. And we're going to do the work between now and Thanksgiving. So I've made copies of.
Susan, why don't you bring them and maybe
I have them
she
here.
could make
Right,
copies.
and then you can make
Yeah.
copies after
Yeah,
that,
right.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you have them on the computer that you can send them as a PDF even, or if not, nope, then I can,
You're
I
asking
can.
a lot.
All right, so
No,
bring them to me,
they're not.
I can actually,
They're
I will
paper. They're
create a
paper.
PDF and save it into the.
Okay,
PDF.
because they're all
Do
paper.
it. Yeah,
We
so
work
that
on
before
paper.
you turn them
Yeah.
back in, so that.
Yes.
Yeah, I
if
can do that.
anybody
Okay,
wants to see
Jane
them
made a
before we
motion
turn
to
it.
adjourn.
Okay.
I was trying to.
No, you did.
Pardon me?
David seconded it.
Okay.
David seconded.
No, somebody else
Well,
seconded it, I said I would
All
support
those-
it.
He would support it, I'll second it.
You'll second it. All
Yeah,
those
I
in
thought he was
favor?
seconding it.
So
Vote on the
all those
motion
in
to
favor
adjourn?
to adjourn?
Yes.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?